Darvin Ham was introduced by the Lakers and addressed what he sees as Russell Westbrook's role next season. This is on NBA Today. Here are his plans with Westbrook moving forward.
I want Russell, you know, we talked in our conversations, and the biggest word we used was sacrifice. I want him to go back to being a pit bull on the defensive end, and everything else is going to flow from there. We're going to implement some different running habits that I think is going to benefit him, and some different areas on the floor he'll be able to attack from. But I want him to set a tone defensively for our team. Just get back to guarding.
So shout out to Russell Westbrook, Key, because he was right there. He was like a couple feet away. And a lot of times considered the way he scorched the earth about the Lakers a couple of months ago, for him to be in the room supporting Darvin Ham, even though potentially he's on the trade block, I think says a lot about the character of who Russell Westbrook is as a leader and who he wants to be as a player in the Laker uniform. Now, as it relates to Darvin Ham, I love this press conference yesterday. It set such a different tone. You know, Key, whenever I would listen to Frank Vogel speak, he said so much, but he didn't really say anything. Now, he won you a championship a couple of years ago. That deserves credit and a lot of praise. But the atmosphere in the room seemed and felt different when Darvin Ham spoke. He said a couple of phrases that stood out to me. Facts over feelings, right? And also, Key, one of the things that bothered me is so many times when people talk about the Lakers, your squad, it's always about the lack of personnel. Well, the personnel doesn't fit it. They're just 3-and-D guys need to be around LeBron James. And there's always a part of me that says, no, tell me what the tactics are from an offensive build-out perspective. Like, how are you building different schemes to make sure with this personnel that this team could play better? He talked about creating a different pace. He talked about the sacrifice it would take for Russell Westbrook defensively to buy in. He talked about LeBron James being the actual point guard for this team. And he's done things to challenge people. He's going to be that voice in the locker room, Key, that it's not going to be like, well, that's how he feels. We'll talk about it, you know, maybe tomorrow. It ain't going to be that. It ain't going to be that, Key. You know what I'm talking about. You need that in that locker room.
Yeah, I think the one thing that they certainly got it right at Darvin Ham, one, he played in the NBA. He's coached the NBA for a very long time. So he understands the culture of the NBA and the thought process of an NBA player. So the way things have been shifting here lately from some of my, as they like to say, NBA inside sources, is that some of these teams are looking for more of this sort of kind of AAU, so to speak, coach in your face with the players and letting them know how to get things done more on an aggressive style. You know what I'm saying, Jay? You played AAU. You know how AAU coaches are. They just like, you know, they know what they're doing, but at the same time, the respect level is at an all-time high with their players. And so I think that is what the Lakers was going for when you got guys like a Westbrook, a LeBron James, and Anthony Davis. In fact, to the point where Darvin Ham first hire is Rasheed Wallace as an assistant. Why did he do that? He did that simply because he needs him to instill some of that toughness in Davis and AD to get him to realize you can be a force in the middle if you put your mind and your heart to it. And I think that is a plus for him to go out and get Rasheed Wallace. On top of that, Rasheed Wallace can talk to the players. He's been on the same level with them. So he's building a staff that certainly lends itself to getting the Lakers back to where they want to be. You got one of the top 4 or 5 players in the NBA still in LeBron James. You got one of the top 6 or 7 players when healthy in Anthony Davis. You got one of the top 15 players in Westbrook in the NBA. They certainly got some pieces around them. They can get it done with a different philosophy.
You know, Key, this man talked about yesterday for a short stint. You know, he got shot in the face when he was 14 years old. 14 years old. And he's like, you can be fearful or you can be fearless. And I chose the latter. I was like, wow. Like, that's somebody that's not afraid to tell you what time it is when you look him in the eye.
I don't believe. Well, it's a philosophical thing, but I don't think it's a fearlessness. It's like,
well,
you know,
Max,
when
you don't have to technically break it down.
But
it was more so about the feeling that it gave you.
But my point is for AD that when you're scared, that's the only time you can be brave, right? If you're not scared, then there's you're not being brave when you do something, even if it looks brave to someone else, right? Whatever's going on with AD, where he is not on the floor enough, where there's an injury, where he doesn't want to do this, where he doesn't want to do that, you gotta face that and overcome that.
But when you bring somebody in like a Rasheed Wallace, who's a big man, who played the forward position, who can now pull you to the side and have a different conversation with you. The conversation is different, opposed to somebody like Frank Vogel trying to tell you how to get on the court and do something. You looking at him like, man, you ain't never, like, I'm not listening to you.
Yeah.
Where Rasheed Wallace is a different conversation. Hey, big fella, let's go have a drink after the game.
Yeah, like
Let's
Rasheed Wallace has played
it's
power forward at a very high level, won a championship.
It's a different conversation.
And if you're Darvin, I mean, you're spending as much time as possible with LeBron James right from the beginning to build that relationship. And I know LeBron James has always liked the character of Darvin Ham.
Yeah.
So if you have LeBron James support, you can get in anybody else's ass whenever you need to. And by the way, Key, do you know Russell Westbrook is the 11th highest paid athlete on the planet this upcoming year?
Yeah.
On the planet.
That's not a surprise.
But my thing is right from the beginning.
Loan me something, man.
Right from the beginning, Darvin Ham saying, no, he's going to play differently.
Yeah.
He's going to play differently.
Defensively. I think it's
when have you ever known
much.
Russ to be a defensive guy?
I think, he's acting like there was a golden age where Russ was a great defender. But it's great
he might
because
have. I mean, I don't know, Jay. You covered the NBA and you watched it. But he might have been sneaky good on defense.
When he gets angry, when he starts doing all this,
when
he channels that, yes.
But the point is, what Jay says, Key, the point is, Jay, like, you're the 11th highest paid athlete on earth. It is not too much for me to ask you to play defense. Right? Like, you can play some defense.
You ask me that, Max, I'm going to tell you to go to hell. But if Darvin Ham asked me, I might
played
be
in
like,
the league and
I might be like,
got
you're
shot
right,
in the face,
coach.
as Jay said.
It's a way to communicate that, like with somebody telling them to buy into the role.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.